Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today I'm going to share with you another delicious recipe perfect for the holiday season. I'm going to show you how to make my dinner rolls that are made with yeast. They're pillowy, soft, buttery, and so delicious. Now, I made these for my Thanksgiving table and I shared them on my Instagram story. And I got so many messages and comments from you guys wanting this recipe. If you don't follow me on Instagram, make sure you do because I share a lot of what I'm doing every day on there. Now, I like to make mine rosemary flavored. It is very festive and it's so nice and such a nice and bright flavor, but you can make these any flavor you like. Let's go over the ingredients so we can start making them. We're gonna need some active dry yeast, a little bit of sugar, some whole milk, 2 eggs. This is unsalted butter that's nice and soft at room temperature, a little bit of salt, some rosemary. This is fresh rosemary, but you can use dried if you like. I have some all-purpose flour and a little bit of salt. So I'm using my tabletop mixer because it makes life so much easier. This is a very sticky dough to work with. You can definitely make it by hand, but with a wooden spoon and then kneading it with your hands. But if you have a tabletop mixer, go ahead and use it. We're going to begin by getting the yeast ready. So in the mixer that's fitted with the dough hook attachment, I'm going to add all of the milk. Now I'm using whole milk, and you want to make sure that it's slightly warm, not cold and not too hot, because too cold will take the yeast too long to activate and too hot will kill the yeast. So now I'm going to add some active dried yeast. I'm also going to add all of the sugar. This is granulated sugar. And I'm going to take about 2 tablespoons of the flour and add it to the bowl. I'm just going to mix it all up. And I'm just going to let it sit for 10 minutes so the yeast can get nice and activated. You'll know it's activated once it creates a foamy layer on top, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a little bit. So while we're waiting for the yeast to proof, go ahead and finely chop the rosemary. Just remove it from the stem. Finally chop it, add it to the flour and salt mixture, and whisk everything all together, and then whisk the eggs as well. So once the yeast is nice and foamy, then you'll know that it's ready to go. If it does not puff up on top and become nice and foamy, then you're going to want to discard that, because that means that yeast has gone bad. It rarely ever happens, but when it does, you just cannot make any kind of bread with it. So now we're going to add all of the flour to it. The 2 beaten eggs, and the soft butter. You want to make sure it's really nice and soft so it incorporates well. We're going to knead this on low speed for about 8 to 10 minutes. While that's kneading, whatever leftover butter I have on here, I'm going to put in my bowl. If you don't have any leftover butter, then you can go ahead and put about a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil in here. For the last minute, you can increase the speed, and then this is what the dough is going to look like. It's still going to be very sticky. Don't worry about it. Just go ahead and transfer it to the bowl. And turn it around a few times so it can get coated with the butter. Cover it with plastic wrap. Cover it with plastic wrap and then set it in the warmest part of your house so it can double in volume. That's going to take anywhere between 1.5 to 2 hours. I'll show you what it looks like as soon as it's ready. It took an hour for my dough to rise, but I always use the dryer trick. Basically what I do is I put a couple of clean towels in my clothes dryer. I turn it on, I let it run for like 10 minutes so it can warm up. Then I go ahead and I put the dough in the dryer, make sure that the dryer is off. I just close the door and I leave it in there. And in about 45 minutes to an hour, the dough is usually ready. So this is what it should look like. It should be nice and puffy and beautiful. So I'm just gonna flour the surface where I'm gonna work with right here, just with some all-purpose flour. And I'm going to transfer the dough onto here. And I'm also going to put a little bit of flour on top. Like I said, it's a very sticky dough. You don't want to put too much flour, but enough so that it's easy to work with. And I'm first going to cut this into 3 pieces. So this batch of dough makes 36 dinner rolls. So you're going to want to go ahead and cut them out as equal as possible into 36 pieces. It's also a good idea to use a kitchen scale if you have one. You're looking for them to be between 1.5 to like 1.8 ounces. I'll also share the metric measurement on the website in the recipe. So now we're going to form them into the balls. So you're going to take a ball of dough and you're just going to roll it on the part of the counter or your work surface that does not have flour. And you're going to keep rolling it until it's nice and round. Place it on a baking tray lined with parchment paper. We're going to do 6 rows of 6, so we can have 36. Cover the dough with plastic wrap and set it aside in a warm spot for about 35 to 45 minutes or until they're nice and puffy. I'll show you what they look like as soon as they get there. Also preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So after about 45 minutes, they will have risen and become nice and puffy and ready for the oven. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. These are going to bake on the center rack for about 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. When they're nice and golden, you'll know they're ready. As soon as they come out of the oven, we're going to finish them off with some melted butter, and then they're going to be ready to eat. I'll show you what they look like as soon as they come out. The dinner rolls took exactly 25 minutes in my oven to bake. As soon as they become golden brown, you want to take them out and then melt about half a stick of butter. That's 4 tablespoons, which is about 60 grams, I think. I know for sure it's 2 ounces. Melt it. It's salted butter. You want to use salted butter for this. Melt it, and then as soon as they come out of the oven, brush them all over with that melted butter. You will thank me later. It's going to make them beautifully shiny and perfect. When you pull, these are actually going to pull apart, and they're just soft and beautiful and delicious. I'm going to go ahead and take a bite. Before I take a bite, let me tell you that you can also make these garlic flavored. So when you melt the butter, you can just go ahead and grate a clove of garlic in there. Or if you don't like that really strong garlic flavor from fresh garlic, you could just sprinkle some granulated garlic powder on there, a little bit more fresh rosemary, brush that all over the top, and they're going to be spectacular. I'm going to go ahead and take a bite. These are the best rolls I have ever had in my entire life. They're slightly sweet, sort of like brioche. They're super duper soft. The bottom got a tiny bit crispy. So good. These are amazing in the morning for brunch with some jelly and a nice cup of tea and some butter. Delicious. That's probably one reason why I wouldn't put the garlic on top, is because I do like to have these with tea as well, like a little snack. Any way you like to make them, go on over to the website, dimitrasdishes.com, grab the recipe, make these. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, us.